I want to see the reports. I want to see what happened. Then as we get into the case, they can tell me, okay, Rosenberg, I wasn't at the crime scene, but I was here. But the starting point, in my opinion, is going to be the evidence, the police reports, hopefully not the recording of my client at the station, breaking it down to somebody that he thinks is an OG, but really works for the sheriff's office, for example. We've had that fact pattern.
And there's a lot of that happens, correct?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. We call that a Perkins agent, and I did a post on that. I think I got 5,000 views at the time. So let's say I'm arrested on a murder, and they take me to the police station. They book me, they do the live scan, they take my booking photo, front and side, and then they put me in a little tank. And let's say there's already somebody in there, or they move somebody in. What I say about the whole incident could be being recorded. So typically what we see is I'm at the station, haven't been to court yet, and then the detectives will come over and possibly provide information, which was what we call a stimulation, and they'll show me a picture of a car, and they'll say, hey, do you know that car? And they might read me my Miranda rights. They're giving me information like, do you know this guy, and that's your car, isn't it? And if I'm engaging with them, then they put me back with the undercover Perkins agent, and then I start talking. And so, again, I have no statement. I want my lawyer. That's going to apply to the conversation inside the tank. Now, they're not allowed to do that once the case is commenced, and that is when you're in court at arraignment. They have filed charges against you. In that moment, you have your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. But before then, at the police station, the prosecution has not commenced, so you don't have that right. So as my colleagues, the Pop Brothers say, shut the fuck up. I have it slightly differently. Mine is an 8-word. I have no statement. I want my lawyer. I have no statement. I want my lawyer. As soon as you say that to a detective, they're supposed to stop. And they sometimes make little comments, well, okay, if that's the way you want to roll. But, you know, I've watched a lot of in-custody interrogations. And then the other thing is that on these Perkins ops, we get a long recording, and then we get the transcript. And when I'm reading those, sometimes I'm saying, oh, man, bruh, 98% of the evidence against you in your case came from your mouth. So,
yeah.
That's how they got those. That's how they got those kids that murdered Pop Smoke, the rapper. I guess they arrested one of them, and then his bunkmate or whatever was an informant. So he told he fucking spilled the whole story. It was like a 16-year-old kid, but spilled the whole story, and then they got everybody.
Damn.
In that way.
Loose lips sink ships, baby.
It's still true today.
Yeah, I've heard about that happening one time while I was actively in. I was actually in Wayside at the time. There was a big story going on that was happening in the old county, downtown county jail, and it was kind of like he was like a gang member. I don't know if he took a deal, bro. What did you call it again? What was it? The Perkins? What is it?
A Perkins agent is the person you're talking to, and Perkins operation is the investigative technique that law enforcement uses.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess it can be any person involved in that for the beneficial of both sides. Correct. Hey man, we need to. We'll drop you out, but we'll take the case off you. But we need you to be in here and do this, that, and that.
Yes.
Right?
How does that work? Is that agent usually like a felon, or is he a cop?
So
who is he?
The answer is it could be both. I've done cases. There's a big case I have in mind. I can't give too many details, but in this case, they had undercover law enforcement that they took advantage of my client's naivete and his youth, and they put basically a sheriff in there with him, and they kind of know the logos, so they kind of pumped him up. Hey bro, no face, no case. Oh, they don't have shit, and blah blah blah. As my guys would say, whoop-de-woo. And then next thing you know, the defendant, the client, is repeating information from the detective, and now someone on the jury might say, hey, well, wow, this guy really confessed. So sometimes there are undercovers who are paid informants. People call them snitches. I call them paid informants. And at the level of the Perkins operation, they don't have to necessarily testify, because what's significant is what the defendant says. And then when they have a recording, they don't need it. And there's another scenario. We had a case, very big case. Again, I don't want to say too much, but it was in district court in Central District, which is the one that's across the street from my office. And they had an undercover who was allegedly from the big prison gang, a dropout. And he set up all these meetings in a little office building where they were recording everything on audio and video. So the facts of that case were the government never called their CI, confidential informant, as a witness. Now, we wanted him to take the stand, right? Bring him down and let us cross-examine him.
Trip his ass up.
Well, again, I don't want to say too much, but we had a reason to believe that we could have devastated his credibility at trial. Now, in that same trial where client was looking at a significant number of years, his cellmate testified against him.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
And so this is a person who was facing sentencing level 38, which was very significant. He would have been pretty much washed up. They gave him a cooperation leniency deal, and he had to testify against our client. It turned out our client was the #1 guy on the indictment. And I mean, you have no idea how much prison gang evidence the jury heard. They saw the little hole in the pipe at an old facility where they run the cord down and then they're talking on the phone. They saw all the movements, the transfers, where our client was and where the snitch was. So notwithstanding that, we were able to secure a not guilty. And this guy was the only guy who was cellied up with our client, and he had a lot of extremely damaging information. So, basically I tell my guys, don't talk about your case, bro.
Because they're